paperwork to come together.
Oh, great.
I have it on certificate still for
They're southeast Atlanta.
Is this a candle? Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your wallets. On this great and historic occasion, I would like to ask the assembled who are gathered here today, as opposed to the assembled who aren't gathered anywhere, one crucial question. How many of you are too apathetic to respond to a direct question? Raise your hands! And how many of you would refuse to answer a rhetorical question? Don't raise your hands. I can see that some of you hecklers are still undecided. Very well. Good evening. I'm not going to make a speech because I'm sure you have a lot of questions. No questions? Okay, I'll make the speech. I would like to take this occasion, as opposed to some other even less appropriate occasion, to announce my candidacy for presidency of the United States. I'd like to, but I don't have a chance in hell of winning, so I'll just waste your time for a while. If I may interject a personal commentary about myself and my candidacy, I am like the little engine who could, except my motto is, I think I can, fail. Before I begin, I would like to preface my remarks by stating that the American people have grown cynical about politics. In fact, many people say they have no problem with the system, it's politics they can't stand. Well, I have no problem with politics, it's the system I can't stand. Or maybe I screwed that up, I don't know, I don't care. And anyway, American people are cynical about politics, and crackpot candidates like myself are just one reason why. Another reason is the perception, held by no one except myself, that politics is sports for people who are too fat to run. And politics is war for people who are too old, weak, and lazy to fight. I believe that a great deal of our cynicism about politics is due to our bloated and antiquated two-party system. On the one hand, we have the party of tax and spend, the Democrats, and gimme. And on the other hand, we have the party of soak the poor and give it back, the Republicans. Well, I believe it's time we elected, at long last, a government that responds to what the people want. Namely, unlimited entitlements earmarked exclusively for them at no expense to themselves. Sort of like Social Security crossed with a perpetual motion machine. Well, folks, the suckers in hell want ice water, but they ain't a-gonna get it. What we really need is a government that looks to the future, an ever-changing future in which the same old stogie-gumming politicians get to run this country straight to the ground. Except this time, they're younger than us, or at least their wives are. I believe our founding fathers were very wise. Because they were such far-sighted visionaries, our founding fathers knew that someday they would be dead. Our founding fathers also knew that there's no such thing as a free lunch. And our founding fathers also knew that dead people don't have to worry too much about who picks up the tab at the all-you-can-eat buffet, or whether to put extra chocolate jimmies and nuts on their soft-serve cones at the Ponderosa ice cream bar. By the way, that reminds me of a humorous anecdote, but I'm not going to tell it to you now. Oh, all right, if you insist. A soldier goes into a soda parlor and says to the girl behind the counter, "Miss, can I have an ice cream sundae?" And she says, "Crushed nuts?" And he says, No, shell shock. Well, it sounds like you're one of my constituency then. Anyway, I say it's time we give the voters of this great and hard-working country a chance. A chance to concentrate on the real business of government, which is basically to give superannuated war healers wearing fedoras bigger than their heads an opportunity to network so they can land cushy, no-show sinecures once the voters kick them out. Now you can see this is a really fat speech. Well, I've chopped out like 90% of it. I'm sure you approve. I don't take the issues seriously. What kind of fool do you think I am? I believe not in the issues, but in the intelligence of the common man. I am talking very slowly, not because I think you're stupid, but because I know you are. I'm just kidding. I am not the man who saves the cat from the tree. I am the man who cuts down the tree and kills the cat. So I make colorful copy, and I'm guaranteed to get lots and lots of press coverage. My goal in this race is to be more popular than the masters I serve. Global corporations. And some American ones too, because after all, this is America. If elected, I hope people will never say that I abuse the power of my office. And if they do, I'll get the IRS after them. I should mention, for the benefit of all you gun owners out there, that I like to drive my beat-up old American pickup truck with a homemade license plate that says militia. I like to park it in front of police stations too. Sometimes I go down to the FBI in Boston and park it there. Now, I hope to attract some volunteers, and I promise if you volunteer for my campaign, I will feed you Chinese food with no monosodium glutamate. That's a promise I can keep because I only go dumpster diving at the swankiest health food restaurants. Additionally, if elected, I promise I will not make intelligent decisions. I'll just give you what you want. I can afford to bide my time. I am a patient man. My motto is, Lord, give me patience. No! Some say I drive a foreign car. Some say I fathered an illegitimate son. That I released a convicted murderer on furlough. That I had electroshock therapy. That I steal free cable television. That I steal newspapers intended for recycling and sell them. That I blow my paycheck at the dog track. That I use illegal drugs. That I was arrested for drunk driving on a suspended license. That I trafficked in pornographic videos. That I raised taxes, cut police, resisted arrest, took junkets at taxpayer expense. That I believe in a double standard, visit prostitutes regularly, run red lights, eat veal, steal pennies from a blind man's cup. To all of these charges, I say, where's your proof that will stand up in court, you filthy monkeys? And that is one of the mottos of my campaign for presidency of the United States. Well, having listened this far, it's obvious that you're for me, and I'm for you. So what are you waiting for? Remember, after all, remember, if the election were held today, it would be November. And now I'd like to ask you all, sincerely, am I creating the impression of sincerity?
No.
Yes.
Thank you. You know, in 1980, Ronald Reagan defined the presidential race with a simple question. Let me ask you that question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Well, I hope not. Otherwise, how could I dupe you into voting for me? Now, if you do vote for me, I promise immediate action. On the day I'm elected, if elected, I will send every one of you a shiny new penny. Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. Now you may ask me, why didn't I run in the Democratic or Republican primaries? My answer is simple. I didn't leave the two-party system. I was kicked out. But I swear I thought those paper ballots were scratch pads. The fact that I just happened to write my name on all of them is just incidental. I say this, regardless of my outsider status, I will fight on. I was a fighter in the past. I'll fight in the future. If I'm not elected, I'll fight anyway. Let's face it, I just like to fight. And let me say this, if you don't want progress, vote for me. If you don't want much of anything, vote for me. I promise I'll never let you down. But I operate under a great handicap. Not the felony conviction, though I hope to reverse that decision on appeal. No, my handicap is the fact that I'm an outsider. And unlike all the other outsiders, I have the lack of money to prove it. Folks, an outsider like me finds out soon enough that politics is full of name-calling, lies, and gossip. These things do not deter me. They are why I am in the race. I enjoy name-calling, lies, and gossip because I am the wrong hero, in case you walked in late. My philosophies are also those of an outsider. I've never betrayed you before. Why not give me a chance? You don't expect a politician to be honest, and if elected, I will not buck a winning trend. In asking you to vote for me, I am appealing to your sense of fair play and intelligence. Give me job. I want it. It's mine. Give me job. That is the big truth of my campaign. Because the rules of the game of politics have changed. I am running because, like most Americans, I need a job. Any job. And just because I wasn't born into inherited wealth, that's no reason why I shouldn't start at the top. Now let me level with you. I am not addicted to alcohol or narcotics. I have not touched a drop of alcohol in 5 years. I've touched several bottles and drained them of their contents, but no drops. Oh, and as for the narcotics, I can quit anytime I want to. But I am addicted to an ideal. My ideal is simple. When I say frog, you jump! But never fear. As president, I will not bite the hand that feeds me. The meat is usually firmer and juicier further up the arm. As president, I promise I will always know the difference between the truth and a lie. Of course, I won't always act on it, but I promise I will always know the difference between the truth and a lie. As president, I promise to give you the government you deserve. But don't ask me to elaborate on that just now.
You fucking monkeys.
That's right, I'm getting to that part of the speech. This is my advance man. He hollers out all the best parts. Can I speak frankly for a moment? It may be the only time I ever do so. What really gets me, is that malefactors of great wealth and corporate polluters continue to befoul the very air we breathe, the very water we drink, the environment we'll be leaving as a legacy, not only for our children, not only for our children's children, but for our children's 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 to quote from the title of an old Moody Blues album. Anyway, it's a shame how these corporate polluters continue to make money by destroying our ecosystem. What really gets me mad is they're cutting in on my racket. It's gotta stop, see? It's gotta stop. And that's not right. And that reminds me of yet another seemingly interminable anecdote, which has only the most tangential connection to what I've just said. On the way over here, 3 chubby little girls at a bus stop took one look at me and sneezed.
Yeah, what?
The woman I sat next to on the subway train started coughing.
Never fucking fit it.
And now you're all staring at me and not saying anything. I don't know, maybe everyone is allergic to me. Well, I will deny this charge. At the very least, I will try to make myself heard over the sounds of your coughing and sneezing. You know, I was hoping to make headline news with this announcement of my candidacy, but right now I would settle for avoiding being arrested for vagrancy.
I know where to go.
So at this time, I will avoid asking for money. I do not want you to give me your money. I want you to give me your support. And if your support just happens to take the form of a cash contribution, preferably in $20 bills with non-consecutive serial numbers, if your support happens to take the form of a cash contribution, I will have to adjust to that, as difficult as it may be. And I will say that although I am reluctant to take your hard-earned money, I am certainly not too proud to accept it. After all, as we all know from the movie Seven, pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, as is greed. Okay, let's knock off the happy horse shit. Just give me the money. But I ask you, what do the Republicans have to offer the American people? The tune they sing is just an old fascist love song playing on the radio, courtesy of Rush Limbaugh. And what the Democrats have to offer is just the same old song with a different bleed since they've been gone. In my campaign, I solemnly promise that I will never commit the sin of asking you for your money only once. And I promise that I will not keep sloppy financial records. I will not keep any records at all. I promise to account for every penny you give me. I promise that every red cent of your hard-earned money will go straight into my pockets, where it will be safe and, incidentally, warm. And I won't make any promises I can't keep. I won't make any promises at all except the ones that will get you to vote for me and my candidacy for presidency of the United States. And furthermore, I pledge that if I win $100 in a lottery, if I win $100 million in a lottery, I will give you $50. It's the least I can do. By the way, as an outsider to politics, I've never even been elected dog catcher. And if your dog could vote, I'm sure he'd thank me on election day. Now, if elected, I promise to always keep my hands where you can see them. Now, all across the land, as the millennium draws to a close, naysayers, prophets of doom, and gloomy gusses talk about the end. I prefer to focus on the beginning of the end. I do not intend to dwell upon the mistakes I've made in the past. No, instead I intend to dwell upon the mistakes I intend to make in the future. Now here is my plea. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for me, the wrong hero, in my candidacy for president. Now, for my Anglo-Saxon friends in the audience, I quote the words that Winston Churchill made famous. I have nothing to offer except blood, sweat, toil, and tears. And needless to say, I won't be opening up a gourmet restaurant anytime soon. And to my Hispanic friends who ask me if I know any Spanish, I know only a few phrases, but I believe they convey the gist of my message. Crisco, dos cerveza, and empleados laven los manos, por favor, which translates to mean, Crisco, 2 beers, and that about sums it up. By the way, if there are any reporters present, I have this to say. I have here in my hand my palm. Also, tell your editors to stop the presses because I can lead you to an enormous scoop. It's at a nearby construction site attached to a steam shovel. Now, I'm aware that all the cigar-chomping political pros have been calling me a loose cannon, but I will say this. I may be a loose cannon, but at least I have balls! Begging the pardon of the ladies. As for the charge that I evade the issues, I say, don't worry about me. I'm all right on the issues. I admit that I have a problem with my credibility, but my credibility is enhanced by admitting that I have a problem with it. Friends, I am not even expected to get one vote in this race. So if I do get one vote, it will constitute a victory for me. And my friends, I will get one vote because I intend to vote for myself. Although the opposition facing me, I will say in my defense that I am a self-made man. Then again, so was Frankenstein. Now, as I ask you for your support, you may say to yourself, well, I'm not ready to make a decision yet. And that's fine. But when I become president, don't come sucking around to me for any favors. My key issues are crime, economic development, education, and the environment. I don't have any opinions about them, they're just my key issues. Now, as an incentive to get you to vote for me, I was planning to throw candy at you, but I'm afraid that my sweet tooth got the better of me on the way over here. I will say one thing about my candidacy. I am for change. People often say, the system is money. I am not of the system. I have no money. I don't even have any spare change, do you? Can I have it? I'll take stamps and subway tokens too. Now, I do not propose to get in a grunting match with my opponents. I'm perfectly content to stand right here and grunt to myself. Regardless of what they say about me, I believe I will say this, I have no outstanding warrants for my arrest. I do have a few mediocre ones, but that's a mere bag of shells. Now, people accuse me of being gratuitously nasty. Why, I don't have a nasty bone in my body. Well, actually, I have one or two, but I broke them. And some people say the wrong hero is crazy. To that charge, I answer, meow. Anyway, that reminds me of an anecdote. You know, folks, growing up, we didn't have much money, and we didn't even get to eat chicken that often. In fact, we only ate chicken once a week when the preacher man came a-calling. The other times we had steak and caviar, but that one time a week we had chicken when the preacher man came a-calling. Well, my mama, she pulled me aside, and usually she said to me, I'll snatch you bald-headed. But then this time, she said to me in her most loving voice when the preacher was fixing to come calling, she said to me, son, if you embarrass me in front of the preacher man, I'll beat the tobacco juice out of you. Well, sure enough, the preacher man came a-calling, and we were having chicken that night, and you know what he was doing? The preacher man was spearing all the best pieces of chicken for himself, and I couldn't stand it no more, so I pops up and I says, Mama, the preacher's going to eat all the best pieces of chicken. Next thing I know, I woke up in the hospital, in traction, and late at night, and a little boy next to me was moaning about his little red wagon. And the nurse came up to me and said, and what do you want to be when you grow up, little boy? And I said, a jet pilot. And she said, that's impossible because you wear corrective lenses. However, you could become an air traffic controller. Well, regardless of my myopia and acute astigmatism, which prevented me from fulfilling my dream of being a jet pilot, a job in which I would have performed heroically and well, doing proud by this great land, regardless of short-sighted naysayers, pun intended. Let it be said that I have a vision of a president who has the courage and the will to display sternness abroad and compassion at home. Or maybe it's compassion abroad and sternness at home. Or maybe it's just sternness both at home and abroad. Whatever you want. I will say whatever you want to get you to vote for me. That is my promise, and that, my friends, is my vision. For I am on the side of the real people. And I promise, if elected, not to appoint any robots or androids to my cabinet. I consulted my computer on this matter, and that's what it advised. And my response was, I hear and I obey, O great one. Furthermore, I stand on record as opposing and denouncing the high-bound, purblind, beltway elitism. At least, that's what my advisors in Washington, D.C. told me would sell. It is these elites who run things who are the enemy. What I'm really trying to say is, let me run things, and then I'll be the enemy. But at least I will admit it. How do I respond to my opponent's criticisms that I am weak and indecisive? Actually, I'm of two minds about that, so let me get back to you on that one. But I will say this to those who have accused me of being a hothead. I am in the mainstream of hotheads. Too often, people talk about the arrogance of the powerful. I would like right now to discuss the arrogance of the powerless. I will crush them for being arrogant, and I will get away with it because they can't fight back. Anyway, on the one hand, I am asking you for your votes. On the other hand, I shouldn't have to ask. You should have already gotten the message by now. I deserve your votes. Otherwise, fuck you and the vote you rolled in on. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have gotten Bob Dole's campaign speech mixed in with my papers. Of course, when I said I would crush the powerless, I hope you realize I was only speaking metaphorically. Actually, I am a man of tolerance and peace. And I often find myself, in the course of my philosophical ruminations, thinking, wouldn't it be wonderful if men and women could get along? But then I realized it would be an even better world if men and men would stop fighting. And if and when the time should come that women and women should start fighting, I would be glad to pay a premium price for a videotape of such an incident for my library. I want you to know that you are the most important people I am going to talk to all day. I need you to play a leadership role in my campaign. In other words, I want your money. At this time, you can be a major player in my campaign. In other words, I want a lot of your money. You are all great Americans. In other words, not only do I want your money, but that of your friends as well. Now, some have said I do not have a chance to win in this race for the presidency. Now, if I really believed that, do you think for 1 minute I'd be standing here sucking up to you animals?
Filthy
monkeys to you!
That's right, filthy monkeys. By the way, regardless of what you may think, I am no stranger to public appearances. I have been the featured attraction at many a county fair, also at many freak shows and roadside zoos. After all, a gig's a gig. Now, if elected, I promise to bring in all the best people. Of course, I'll send them all home the very next day. But after all, it's the thought that counts. Besides, how smart can they be if they're willing to work for me? Now let me recite verbatim the conversation that this interesting man in the wool hat is having in the pointy window. Peter Wolf was sitting here. He's really, like, groovy, man, and far out. Like, I've always loved Peter Wolf, man. He's my idol. It has been said that we live in a troubled time for civilized discourse. My friend in the wool hat.
Yeah, hi.
It has been said that we live in a troubled time for civilized discourse. Therefore, I suggest you shut the fuck up and let me talk!
Let's see some skin! Yeah! Bring it on!
I say, fuck the rules. I'm making this up as I go along. And I'll say another thing too. You're so boring, I could snore. You're so stupid, I could scream. In this race, I pledge that I will candidly and openly prevaricate.
Oh my god. See some skin.
You see, I am the only honest man in politics. And I must admit, I stole that slogan from someone else. I will say to you now that, if elected, my foreign policy will be to enthrone tyrants and doom freedom. In other words, it will be business as usual at the State Department. If you're gonna throw shit, throw pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, dollars. All right, a quarter. Hot diggity. That's 1/4 of my campaign budget.
See some ass!
You need a tweezers to see it. Here's where I stand on the other major issues. I favor gun control, except for assault weapons and armor-piercing bullets. As for school prayer, I believe there should be a moment of silence in public schools and a moment of noise in Bible schools. I support all affirmative action quotas, but only when they favor me. I oppose the death penalty, except for people I just don't like. And I think there should be a tax on capital gains of a 100%, so nobody can be rich except me. Now, can you guys tell me what capital gains are? Me neither. Who gives a shit? Now, you listen to me and listen good. I ain't gonna let no slick, slippery, lifted pinky finger Madison Avenue ad executive package what I have to say. Because I don't believe in that. Besides, they cost too much. In this election, I promise that I will promise something for every city, town, and community I visit. I will admit I'm operating under a lot of handicaps in this race. I'm old. I'm repulsive. I'll steal anything that's not nailed down. And I'm too smart and cynical to tell the truth. In other words, I have at least one thing in common with everybody else who's running in this election. And that, in a nutshell, is why you should elect me. Is your asses itching yet? Oh, would. Let me make this clear. I am against anti-government violence. It is my belief that only the government should have a monopoly on violence. But otherwise, it is my firm belief that I know what the people want. Because I am the avatar of the moron zeitgeist. Got me a piece of candy.
I'll give you $1 to stop.
Well, you know, that's one of my campaign promises.
$2.
Okay, I'm winding it down now, all right? Jesus Christ. So, I'll do a little monitor surfing. Well, maybe not. I say this to you. Don't elect men in bow ties who care more about themselves than you. And don't elect men in neckties which are knotted so tight they cut off the flow of blood to the brain. Elect me, a man with no neck at all. People have asked me, why am I running for president? And my answer is simple and straight to the point. I am running for president so I can stay out of jail. For one of the terms of my probation is that I actively seek full-time employment. In this great country we call America, as opposed to some other name like former British colonies or Disney World or Frank Sinatra land, in these great United States of ours, there are limits to what we ought to be willing to tolerate. And my job is to test these limits to the breaking point, and that's what I've been doing these past 25 minutes. My beliefs are simple and straight to the point. Advertising is the Stalinization of commodities. Commodities are our household gods. Big business is the religion of selfishness. And with beliefs like these, I won't be picking up any corporate sponsors anytime soon. Of that, I can assure you. I am neither of the left or of the right. I believe a socialist is a hobo with a PhD. I believe a conservative is a socialist who wants all the money for himself. And I believe that the United States is a uniquely great country where you can say whatever you want just so long as you do as you're told. In my candidacy, I hope to raise the level of public discourse by intoning a childish, inoffensive public policy mantra like jobs for Americans or say no to drugs until the gullible and hypnotized masses follow me, cattle-like, to the path leading to their own slaughter. And let me say this. I, for one, am sick of the sanctimonious liars who run and rise to positions of great power in this country. Don't we deserve some avowedly godless, blasphemous, and profane liars for a change? If elected president, I intend to address the source of all our woes, big government, while doing nothing about corporate control of big government. Because nobody is that crazy, not even me. So my policy will be to have even less government and even more complete corporate control. Lenora Fulani, I'm not, but I try. As president, and this, you guys from West Virginia?
Yeah.
You guys might be interested in this.
Yeah, we are.
As president, I pledge to abolish the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, because that will get me a lot of votes in West Virginia. And I also pledge to never abolish alcohol, tobacco, or firearms, because then Southerners would have nothing to do in their spare time. Now, I don't care if the corrupt political culture of Washington, D.C. refuses to accept me, just so long as they let me in on some of that corruption there.
I know how you feel.
Cool. You know, one time, talking about healthcare issues, one time I had a stupid hemorrhage. That's because I wasn't smart enough to have a cerebral hemorrhage.
Oh my God.
You know, America now imprisons more people per capita than Russia or South Africa. And, you know, some soreheads still insist that there's no such thing as progress. And now I'd like to discuss another serious topic before I go. Washington, D.C. I do not want to move to Washington, D.C. To me, Washington is an evil city, overrun by fat cat lobbyists who want to bribe you with suitcases full of cash, love-starved bimbos, and all-expense-paid junkets to Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. I do not want to go to such an evil city. But if you elect me as your president, I promise I will do my duty and reluctantly take up residence there, even though I am shocked at some of the sordid goings-on there. Now, in my campaign, I do not intend to pander to the religious right. But I will mention that Jesus Christ, God Almighty, is my campaign manager.
Jesus God.
I was going to pick Einstein as my campaign manager, but I was afraid he knew too much. Yeah, I know. Hey, listen, guys. 2 more minutes and I'm done.
Hero, the bear, the bear.
I'll get to the bear. Now, in the course of this boring speech, I hope I have impressed you with my brilliantly boring comments. This race can be defined by one word: integrity. And I want you to remember something. Integrity is like oxygen. You need it to live, but it can blow up in your face. Also, it catches fire rather easily. Also, if you mix integrity with hydrogen, then you get water. And maybe I should have quit while I was still ahead. But if I wanted to quit while I was still ahead, I would have never gotten up here in the first place.
Oh my God.
In this race, I have too much integrity to denounce my opponents. I have too much integrity to demonize my opponents, because I'm afraid that if I do, they will cast a satanic spell on me.
It's just intolerable.
People say I'm tactless, intolerable. I like to think of myself as courageous, fearless. Fearless because I speak out and say things that other people only whisper.
Yeah!
Things like, "Hey mister, your fly is open." Things like, "Quiet please, this is a library." Things like, "I'm really very sorry, but I got laryngitis." To conclude then, you could applaud at this point.
Yeah!
History may little note nor long remember my candidacy for the presidency. Actually, there's no may about it. History will forget, period. And so will you. So why do I bother? It all comes down to one word: stupidity! I came in second in a stupidity contest.
What about the bear?
I would have come in first, but I was stupid. But I think we need a stupid candidate in this race.
Rip up the bear!
if this election is to be truly representative of the electorate on whose behalf it is being waged. Because stupid people like you deserve representation, even though you're too stupid to realize it. So on election day, when you pull that switch or lever or thingamajig or whatever you call it, remember, vote for me, because I'm too dumb to steal. Vote for me, because I don't believe in organized crime, I believe in organized chaos. If I have one final message to share with you, it is probably this. Message, I don't care! I think I could probably sift your brain through that sieve. And I don't think any pieces would cling to the top of it either.
Rip up the bear!
Actually.
Rip up the bear!
I see that one of my opponents has lost her diaphragm.
Rip up the bear! You're making yourself unpopular.
That's my whole point in this race.
Start sifting.
Hey, here's an impression. John the Baptist's head on a platter. My friends, remember, politics is sports for people who are too fat to run, and war for people who are too weak to fight. And now I'd like to thank you. You give good audience.
Rip up the bear!
I must mention to you that I call you my friends, even though you aren't. Because my real friends would never have let me talk this long. And now, before I go ahead,
Rip up the bear! Rip him up!
I'd like to introduce my running mate. He shields me from... Are you a reggae musician or something? You know, reggae music is the sound of brain cells marching off a cliff. This is my running mate. He has not been listening very well to what I've had to say. In that... He has much in common with you. In fact, this bear is my link to the common people.
Rip him all up into little pieces!
Looks like somebody is losing their head.
Rip him up and get inside his empty skin!
He's an endangered species.
Eat it! Eat the bear! Rip him up and crawl inside him!
How about if I fuck him through the hole in his neck? Would you like that?
Take up all
That'll cost you $20 extra, and it'll be at the end of the show.
Take off all your clothes!
Here's what I have to say to you.
Get inside the bear!
Die! Die!
Get inside the bear! Become the bear!
I guess these are the simple bare necessities of life.